Hello and welcome back to NoBS. Today we return to talking about a pretty disturbing trend happening in America that's really getting exposed more and more often recently. We all know there's a few people, prominent figures in the public, specifically on the left wing, and some of them like to pretend to be black. That's right. We're talking about a new figure, a new person who got exposed pretending and lying about their background. That's right. We've talked about this before. Most famously, Shaun King is a fake black person who's on Twitter, constantly race baiting, hustling, trying to gather donations, support BLM, do silly activist stuff like that. And also another figure was Rachel Dolezal. She was one that was involved in academics too, I believe. She was like working at a school and used her fake black background to get her a job and stuff like that. And that's pretty similar to what's happening recently. Recently, about a week ago, I heard of another case of someone, a female at a university, getting exposed for pretending to be black. And then today we have another case of that happening, another instance of someone pretending and lying about their background and very likely using it to get advantageous treatment. And before we get to the news story about this grad student who did it, I believe in Wisconsin, well, before we get to that, I think I just want to address and ask, hey, is America really that racist then? Like, why are people pretending to be this race if it's actually such a disadvantage? It doesn't make sense. It goes to show that it's not actually advantageous to be other races, like say white people. They're usually the ones pretending to be black. And the reason they do that is for attention, to get special treatment, to get more money, to get, to use as a shield, like say, oh, you can't say anything bad about me because I'm black. You can't arrest me because I'm black. That's like the motto of BLM. Like they'll defend even the worst criminals who are attacking people with weapons and doing bad things to children. Like they'll defend them if they have a certain skin color. And that's why I think this is happening more and more recently. It goes to show people pretend to be these other races because it's actually not advantageous to be white. We're not in a supremacist nation at all. It's not true. And that's why people like another example, Elizabeth Warren is another example, another female, another person who's obviously white, pretending to be, in this case, Native American. This is a different race, but it's similar reasons. She did it in academia too. She did it to get into college, to get into a better law school. She also got a job at Harvard, I believe. One of those Ivy League schools hired her because supposedly she was part Native. But truth be told, she took a DNA test. She's not really Native at all. She's got like 0.001% Native. It's like nothing, basically not worth mentioning. And yeah, this is going along with that trend. This happens a lot. And that's what this news story is about. Here's a tweet from the Post. It says, grad student admits to lying about being black, resigns from teaching position. So this appears to be something that happens a lot in academia. And I think we could guess why. I mean, schools tend to lean far left. They're very, very woke. They have been for generations, but particularly in recent times, along with how the rest of the world is getting more left-wing, progressive, the media, things are getting woke and anti-white and anti-American and stuff like that, and really comes from colleges a lot. So it makes sense that some of these white girls are pretending to be black. They're curling their hair or whatever they have to do, getting spray tans, and it's giving them special treatment. It's getting woke points for them, and it makes sense. It's why this whole identity politics thing is getting out of hand, because people are literally lying and pretending to be other things in order to get special treatment and jobs and more money and stuff like that. And this person getting exposed is certainly a sign, a good sign in the right direction. It says, grad student admits lying about being black, resigns teaching position. This was on September 16th. A graduate student at the University of Wisconsin-Madison has apologized and resigned from their teaching job and workers' union leadership position after years of embracing lies about their racial identity. CV Vitolo Haddad, who uses the non-binary pronouns they and them, admitted they are actually Southern Italian and Sicilian, not black or Latino, which are both labels they accepted when peers allegedly assumed they were a person of color. Now, this is pretty obviously a cop-out, someone trying to justify and play it cool. And, she's trying to say, oh, people just assumed I was black, so I went along with it. I didn't say I wasn't, which is kind of like the most innocent way she could play this. But I highly doubt that's true 100%. I'm sure she embraced it more than that. She already looks like she might be trying to play up the look here. I don't really see a black person in this picture specifically, but I could see maybe like adding the curly hair and tan or something like that. I'm not sure how she presented herself in other cases. Like here, I think she's just kind of playing up the whole, the darker skin tone, which kind of goes along with Italians. They tend to be a little more tan sometimes, but they are still European, considered white people. And that's why someone like this would not want to accept that identity. In addition, we got to love the fact that, first of all, they have this name, CV Vitilo Haddad. I'm not sure if like her name name is CV. It looks like it's the name CV with the hyphenated last name, which is just classic left-wing stuff. They always pick strange names. They always use hyphens. They always have multiple names and stuff like that. They want to sound special. They want to stand out. They can't stand being normal or regular or average, which in a way is understandable. I mean, people everywhere kind of want to be special. I know I do. Everyone wants to kind of be strong and different and have their own thing. But the way I see it with them, it's being forced. It's like them trying too hard and they're trying to embrace these different labels too. Like, for example, this is a non-binary too, they and them pronouns, which is interesting. It's another kind of way to support their far leftism. It shows that they're cognizant of like these kinds of hierarchies. They know that if they're non-binary, they're going to be a step above, say, straight people or even some gay people or lesbians. Like there's a hierarchy with these liberals. It's not cool. I don't like it and I don't think it should happen, but it's the truth in the way they operate. They say, hey, straight people are on the bottom, gay, lesbian, trans on the way up to the top. You know, the top is like a trans, non-binary, disabled Muslim or something like that. You know, like the more identity points you have, the higher in the hierarchy you go. And that's why it's not surprising this person went with the silly name, went with the non-binary pronouns, and also they let people assume they were a person of color. Now, even in the best case scenario, let's assume that she didn't claim this and just let people call her a person of color. She should have corrected that. That's a mistake too. You can't even take this all the way. Even if you give her the most generous kind of, oh, I'll believe that. Everyone just assumed you were black, which is weird because she doesn't look black. But yeah, she went along with it anyway. Even if we give her the most generous and believe all her story, she still did it wrong. She still should have said she was Italian. She still let people assume she was black and led it to her not only being a graduate student at this university, but she's also leading some workers' union in a leadership position. I mean, a liberal in a union isn't super surprising, but it is going along and building up this story. When asked if I identify as black, my answer should have always been no. Vitolo Haddad wrote September 8th in the second of two confessions on Medium. There were 3 separate instances I said otherwise. I have let guesses about my ancestry become answers I wanted but couldn't prove. Vitolo Haddad previously said in an apology published September 6th on Medium. I have let people make assumptions when I should have corrected them. That's good. It's good to get an apology, admittance of guilt. Definitely a sign in the right direction, but also still bad. I mean, the apology is great. I hope she can correct things and do better, but she let this go on for far too long. And it says here, she even said that there were 3 separate instances that she said otherwise. So I believe she even claimed it herself after a while. In the second missive, Vitolo Haddad added, I want to apologize for ever taking lies about Cuban roots at face value and for subsequently attaching myself to people's perceptions of me as though I would provide answers where there were none. I take full responsibility spreading these lies and I am deeply sorry. Haddad, who has railed against conservatives' views about race, declined an interview with the Wisconsin State Journal, which first reported the story on Saturday. However, in a series of text messages, Vitolo Haddad told reporters, I repeated things I heard growing up from my family that I know to be lies. I'm so sorry. I take full responsibility for spreading these lies and am deeply sorry. So she's admitting guilt. She's gotten caught. It's a good sign in the right direction. I do appreciate the apology. I'm not going to be too hard on her going forward, but it's still a bad thing. And I think the greater problem isn't necessarily this person. It's the culture that's making them want to do this. This whole woke left-wing culture that's encouraging people to be minority more and giving them special treatment, you know, giving them extra points and victim points, and also at the same time bashing white people, like white people are the worst, they're all racist, they're all supremacists, things like that. All this rhetoric coming from the left is what's causing this to happen. Of course, people are going to not want to be white anymore in some cases, especially if they're a liberal and they're young like this and they're trying to go to college or get a job. I mean, I can understand hiding that myself. I wouldn't. I know I wouldn't. I'm strong enough. I wouldn't necessarily go along with this at all. But most of us watching this, of course, we're not going to fall for these liberal lies and this BS. So we're kind of not their demographic. And it's just troubling to see them kind of brainwash these kinds of young people and get them to think this is the way to go. This is the way to act. It's just the worst kind of story. It's kind of sad too that this person, she seems like a young person. They seem like a young person, and they've been wrapped up in this bad situation that they're a part of too. They're still guilty, of course, as well. In their initial post, Vitolo Haddad also expressed a desire to make amends for every ounce of heartbreak and betrayal the deception has caused others. Due to the controversy, the graduate student who studies at the School of Journalism and Mass Communication has given up their teaching position and stepped down as co-president of the school's chapter of Teaching Assistants Association, a graduate student union. However, Vitolo Haddad also claimed they have never identified as non-white on paper or attempted to gain access to scholarships and awards provided specifically for people of color, according to Inside Higher Ed. So there is an upside a little bit. She didn't claim on paper, supposedly. I'm not sure if that's 100% true. I would also add that, she could still get benefits from this and still get picked based on that. Like, for example, if she interviewed for a job in person, she might have led on that she was a minority. She might have attached a picture to her resume trying to make her look more woke and left-wing and black. There's a lot of ways she could have went around this, and I think it's just still a really bad story. It's also worth noting here that she's a teacher. She's teaching at this school, which is super messed up. We have a lying teacher pretending to be black again. This is just another example of that. That's what Elizabeth Warren did. That's what Rachel Dolezal did, all this stuff. And it's just messed up. It's like showing how corrupt these colleges are and how this kind of woke culture is turning into a big mess, and it's causing these people to lie. And it's also, it's interesting. She works at the School of Journalism and Mass Communication. I was actually a journalism student myself at one point. I have a telecom degree, but I was more studying in the TV department, trying to learn about film and editing and broadcast and stuff like that, which happened to be in a journalism school. But I'm not sure what her specialty is, but it's not surprising because we all know how woke and left-wing news agencies are and how the left likes to control the world and narratives with the news. That's why it's not surprising someone like this is getting involved in a news college, and they're trying to teach students and young wannabe reporters how to be more woke, left-wing. They're teaching them like hierarchy, critical race theory, bad stuff like that. So it's good to expose this story. It's another example of someone pretending to be black, which should stop. And it's really, I think the last thing I'll say is black people should be more mad about this. Like, this is really bad look, not for them specifically, but they should be like, hey, people are trying to pretend to be us. That's messed up. It's almost like stolen valor or something like that, which I think needs to stop. That about wraps things up. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure you comment your thoughts on everything below. Also hit that like button to help us get shared. Subscribe if you're new, and hit the bell for notifications too. Until next time, have a great day and a pleasant tomorrow.